What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the transfer season because it's kicked off. It actually was kicking off before the season ended, but now it really kicked off. I think everybody was kind of looking forward to it until they saw the Di Marzio breaking news on Chiesa. I'm not going to talk about that on this show. I'm going to keep that for a live later tonight. So stay tuned for that because apparently Thiago Motta is not sold on Chiesa and he doesn't see him fitting in his style of football. But that's something we're going to not talk about in this video. We will talk about that on the live. We're going to talk about the early moves Giuntoli is trying to do. One being Di Gregorio on a free for one season, which is convenient because we talked about the situation money-wise. Then also there's an update, a big update on Colt Miners and something on Di Lorenzo. But before we do that, first transfer video of the summer, I think. So hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, turn the bell notification on as well, and let's go. Okay, so we're gonna start off with Di Gregorio, obviously, because when we got linked with him early on, and actually we were linked with Carnisecchi as well, and it was all about, man, do we really need to waste money on a goalkeeper this summer when we are trying to build a new team, new coach? We already need to fix that midfield that we refused to fix for so many months, years, I guess. I think we're all worried, and I'm gonna talk for myself. I was like, man, it's gonna take a big portion of our budget. Can we really afford that? And now this news comes out from Nico Eshira, who is reliable, and he's saying that Juve and Monza are closing the Michele Di Gregorio deal with the formula of a loan with an obligation to buy. Guaranteed because there are simple conditions. Price tag 20 million euros, contract until 29, and meeting is expected in the next couple of days to kind of close that deal. But that's a big update because it's a free transfer for a season, basically, quote unquote. And yes, I know if you pay 20 million euros, you're not paying 20 million euros up front. But whatever you're paying up front, if you can avoid paying, even if it was upfront 4 million euros, if you can even avoid paying 4 million euros, that's good. Whatever you can move off the budget for next season, that's good. That's really good. That's the biggest worry, that if the club plans for a season and they include 20 million euro for him in this year's budget, even though it's not going completely out of this year's budget, obviously, but they can move that to next season, that's big time. Because next season, you're assuming, okay, Chesney is gone, he steps in. Although Di Marzio saying that still Chesney is number one person to leave. He said it again. He said the plan of the club is to have Di Gregorio, first goalkeeper, and Perin, the backup. They're trying to move on Chesney, which will be kind of out of nowhere. I think nobody was expecting that. Everybody was expecting that he will see out his contract and that he will and that he would leave, on a free, whatever. However, Di Marzio's pushing the story that it's Chesney that's leaving, or that needs to leave, which is weird because I absolutely like Chesney. I think he's a top class goalkeeper. Not easy to find these goalkeepers. We might have, obviously, his wages are too much, but that's the issue. Like, how are you gonna move him out? With those wages, who's gonna buy him? Are you gonna find an agreement with him that he can leave on a free? Like, I don't know, but that's what Di Marzio is saying. But the Di Gregorio update on a free loan is a big update. It's key for me personally to actually more to enjoy this deal even more. Yes, you plan for the future, but hey, if you can spread that money, if you can move that money around and move it down the line, that's even better. That's even better for us. So that's a big update, and I think it's a massive one if we can get it over the line in this structured offer, basically, and not upfront. Now, the second update is Colt Miners, because he is the main target still, according to Di Marzio. He said that in January, if people remember correctly, saying that he is the number one target, and the club will, the moment the January window closes, the club will contact Atalanta and they will work on that deal for the summer. And actually, he wasn't lying apparently, because the club made an offer. He said Juve offered 40 million euros plus 5 in bonus for Colt Miners, but Atalanta is asking for 60 million euros. Talks will take place soon to try and get a deal done. He remains a top target for the club. Now, I think 60 is too much. Now, I'm not saying that in today's market 60 is insane for him, but it's insane for us. That's what I'm trying to say. 40 plus 5 is okay. I like Colt Miners. I like him a lot. I also like other players who are cheaper. But like I said so many times, if you bring in a new coach and you want to build a new project and he's like, I need him, I can use him. If you can give me him, I can make it work. Then you need to try to make it work. Now, 60 million euros, I think it's way too much for our budget, and what we need besides Colt Miners. So it's going to be interesting to see how Giuntoli will try to convince Atalanta, because I'm not even sure which players we're going to include in a potential deal, because Atalanta are not Genoa, with all due respect. They're not going to take players on loan with an option to buy it back. Like, that's not how Atalanta works anymore. Like, they just won the Europa League. They're in the Champions League. Like, you cannot mock them off like that. So it's going to be interesting how they're going to do it. But 60 million euros, I don't see us paying that for Colt Miners, who would be a big boost. But then again, Di Marzio turns around and he says, hey, Locatelli and Rabiot are, in Thiago's mind, said, key players. And I'm like, okay, but are you going to then spend 60 million euros on Colt Miners? Like, are you going to play Locatelli in the same position? What about Rabiot? What about Fagioli? And yes, we play a lot of games, but 60 million euros to have a backup, or like a rotation player, or have Rabiot on big wages as a rotation player, or Locatelli, like it's a lot, it doesn't fit in right now. So it's interesting because he starts off with this news and then he says Di Marzio is a key figure for Rabiot is a key figure for Motta if he was to renew his contract. So it is an interesting one, because I think someone still needs to go. I think a big player, or like a player on big wages or who commands a transfer fee midfield, needs to go. And I think we will add a quote-unquote cheaper player who would be okay with being a rotation player, starting games, bench games, getting subbed in, subbed out, like these type of things. But as of now, again, it's early on, again, people are going to comment the Chiesa one, because he said Motta doesn't really see Chiesa in his preferred starting 11. We'll talk about that later on, so maybe that's BS. But when people turn around and say, how do they know? Do they talk to Motta? No, but Giuntoli talked to Motta for months. Like, this deal signing Motta did not happen a week ago. It happened months ago, basically. And yes, Giuntoli asked, like, what do you need? What do you want? What do you want? This player's out of contract. Do you think we should keep him? Do we, like, these things happen, which is good. That's how it should happen. That's how it should work, But like I said, things will happen this summer where we'll sit back and be like, oh boy, I don't like that at all. Like, you're really selling him and you're signing him. But that's going to be the type of summer. So Colt Miners' first offer, Atalanta said, no, we want we want a lot of more money than 40 plus 5. So it's going to be interesting. That's one that will drag on for ages, in my opinion, if we were actually going to pursue it until the end. Now, to wrap this one up, the first transfer video of the season is Di Lorenzo, because that name popped up from maybe sources a lot of people do not rate, which is fine. But now it's being talked about by good sources as well. Even Nico Shira saying that, yeah, they're keeping an eye on the situation. And Tuttosport is saying that Di Lorenzo told Napoli that he wants to leave the club, and Juve is because there's a connection with Giuntoli. That might be lazy journalism and doing 1 + 1 is 2, or it's actually true, However, they added that he's gonna wait, or like no talks have taken place as soon, because still the new coach from Napoli, which is gonna be Conte, interestingly, could play part in that decision and maybe convince Di Lorenzo to stay, But on Di Lorenzo, that's a big fat no for me. I think he's 30 years old, which is crazy because I thought he was a lot younger. I never rated him. Never did, never will. He had a good season last season. Actually, had an excellent season. But even at the Euros, when he was playing for Italy, excuse me, um, I was looking at him like, you're not that guy. Like, you're just not good. And he's not good. He's 30 years old. That's a player we absolutely do not need. We need players in that position, but not him. Do not waste money on that type of player. That's just my opinion. And that's purely based on the fact that I never rated him as a player. It's as simple as that. I never did, and I never will. Because he's not my cup of tea. I don't think he's a very good defender. Period. So, and even going forward, it's not spectacular enough to say, oh, you know what, forget about the defending. Maybe like a bit like Cancelo, I can look past it because going forward it's excellent. I don't have that vibe with him at all. So that's a no for me, and I hope that news goes away really, really quickly. So let's see. But first transfer video of the season. Let me know in the comments what you think about the Di Gregorio deal. Gold miners, first offer, 40 plus 5. They said no. And if you want to talk about Chiesa in the comments, do. But I will talk about that on a live later tonight and a podcast I'm going to record with Julian. It's probably going to drop on Monday. So stay tuned for that as well. And that's it. The first one of many transfer videos is out. So let's see what will happen. Ciao.